Yeah, you read that right. The oldest known land animal on Earth lives on an island with saints. And if you're wondering what all that means, stick around for today's episode of Life's Potluck Buffet, where I will explain in excessive detail. I'm John Paulus. You're listening to Life's Potluck Buffet only on YouTube. If you're enjoying Life's Potluck Buffet, please subscribe. If you've already subscribed, thank you for your support. And if you have a Brave browser, you can now contribute basic attention tokens to Life's Potluck Buffet with John Paulus on YouTube. Thank you for listening. Okay, where to start? All right, let me start with the island, this island of saints that I'm talking about. So the island I'm talking about is an island in the South Atlantic Ocean. It is 1,000 miles or so from the southern part of Africa. It is maybe 2,000 miles, I believe, from Rio de Janeiro, or Rio de Janeiro. For all of you listening in Brazil, tell me if that sounded a little bit right. I'm practicing. So yeah, this island is remote. It is remote, but it is inhabited. There are about 4,000 saints on it. And the reason I say 4,000 saints is because that's what they call themselves. And the island is the island of St. Helena, or St. Elena, depending on how you pronounce it. So that island is most famous, I believe, in world history for being the island where Napoleon, the famous French emperor, died in exile in 1814. His remains were repatriated to France, and today in Les Invalides in Paris, you can see Napoleon's sarcophagus, and it's very that in itself was a whole another episode in itself. How many years it took to construct that sarcophagus and to source the materials for it from faraway places, and maybe even more so, there was at some point an alternative plan by his nephew, who's also Napoleon, to have the whole Napoleon tomb thing elsewhere. So, and that didn't work out either. But finally, it got built, and that's at Les Invalides in Paris. Well, around that time, when that was going on, a tortoise was born in the Indian Ocean, in one of the islands of the Seychelles. And that tortoise is still alive. Yeah, you heard that right. That tortoise is still alive. If you didn't know this, if this is news to you, you are probably as blown away as I am, because this is the oldest living land animal that we know about. Who knows? There may be another older living one. We just don't know about it. And the tortoise's name is Jonathan. It wasn't Jonathan. That's not the name the tortoise's mother gave it. The tortoise was named by an official on St. Helena in the 1930s. That was about 100 years after the tortoise was probably born. And we don't exactly know what year the tortoise was born. And that's because the tortoise was brought to St. Helena in 1882 and was thought to be around 50 years old at that point. The tortoise's carers, tortoise's caregivers, believe that the tortoise is probably older than that. But probably the youngest the tortoise is 192 years old this year. But the tortoise may be over 200 years old. Who knows? There's a chance that the tortoise could have been born 10 years earlier. The lifespan of a giant tortoise like this, of a Seychelles giant tortoise, is something like 150 years. That's the kind of lifespan that you might expect. they show what is called negligible senescence, and senesco in Latin means to grow older. And so negligible senescence means that they don't show signs of aging, or show negligible signs of aging when they reach maturity. And the thing about this is that when Jonathan arrived, whatever Jonathan's name was when Jonathan arrived on St. Helena, he was probably in his just maturing, and that's why. And they say 50 to 70 years is where we're talking about. Like that's the number they give for the when these tortoises reach maturity, and after that they show negligible signs of aging, and they usually can live for a long time after that. Obviously, the 150 years is what you'd expect. So, but for the last several decades, they've been feeding Jonathan a really nutrient-rich diet, and lots of carrots and lettuce and cabbages and all sorts of different apples, bananas. Just apparently, Jonathan's a big fan of bananas. So they've been really doing a wonderful job caring for Jonathan, and Jonathan is very perky for 192. And I think that is part of it, is that the care that he's getting has helped him extend that lifespan. Because I understand before they switched over to that diet that they now have, he was flagging a little bit. And Jonathan is also blind because of cataracts, but judging from the videos, seems to be doing very, very well. Now, there's a picture on the thumbnail. I'll put it right here, of Jonathan from 1886, 4 years, they say, after he is recorded to have arrived on the island of St. Helena. So that is pretty amazing. We have documentary evidence of Jonathan there apparently eating grass. I know it looks a little bit like Jonathan's not doing so well there, but it's just an accident of the picture, how Jonathan is positioned at the point that they took the picture. And this picture was thought to be from, I think, 1902 or 1900, and then they realized that actually it was from 1886. And so this is Jonathan at least 54 years old, and it could be older, could have been older. I don't think he could have met, he wasn't on the island of St. Helena at the time, but I think he could have met, there's a chance that he's old enough to have met Napoleon, which would make him 210 years old. Well, if he met Napoleon towards the end of the things. But yeah, anyway, that's and again, he was on the Seychelles at that time, not on St. Helena, so he couldn't have met Napoleon. But nonetheless, it's amazing to think that there was, like, I'm even considering that fact. If you realize how many, the president of the United States at the time was Andrew Jackson. So that's pretty amazing to think of. Just let me put it into perspective. Andrew Jackson was the 7th president of the United States. I could go on, but you get the point. Jonathan has been around a while and is the oldest verifiable living land animal that we know. There are sea creatures that are older, but in terms of land terrestrial animals and this terrestrial turtle, the tortoise, Jonathan is the oldest we know about. So, in honor of Jonathan and all of the saints on St. Helena, and if you're listening, hello, let's draw a card from the Life's Potluck Buffet card deck. So here we go. Yellow lemons, blue dumplings, magenta noodles, cards. Tell us some things. All right. Oh, it's a wild card. And the wild card reads, Life's Potluck Buffet, it's about what you bring to it. So say a tagline like that for another product, an organization, or anything else you think of, whatever pops to mind. And then say what you find to be interesting about the tagline that you thought of and why it came to mind. So give that a thought. I'm going to give it a thought. I think I'm going to say something like Jonathan, the tortoise, who's also a saint. I think it's a good tagline for Jonathan going forward. And happy 192nd birthday, whenever that happens, Jonathan. And I'll see you next time on Life's Potluck Buffet.